I love to come and just spend a few moments here by Agnes's grave. Dr. Agnes Hagar was the oldest daughter, the oldest child of Dad and Mom Hagar. And her little gravestone is right beside theirs. She was an amazing woman, and we don't often think or talk about her in Good Sam, but we should. She has a wonderful story that is worth thinking and remembering. She was never married, and as you look at her stone, it has the date of her birth in 1910 and her death in 1992. And then Dr. Agnes Hagar, she was a medical doctor. And then the little verse is from Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. As I think about her life, that verse kind of echoes time and time again. She was one of the very first women doctors. When she got her MD in the mid to late 1920s, she was one of the very first. And as she did that, she had to deal with a lot of barriers and hurdles and people's perspectives about women not being doctors. And yet she did it because she depended on Jesus. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Soon after that, she left for the mission field. She went to Papua New Guinea. But on her way there, she stopped in London, and she did a course in tropical medicines. And while she was there, she fell in love with one of her professors, a bachelor professor there in London. And yet she was so shy that she never said anything about it. And when she was in his class, she would often look at him and have the kind of longing that people have when they're imagining life with someone else. But he never picked up on that. He never got any of her hints. And so when she sailed away from London, heading for Papua New Guinea, there was this deep sense of loneliness and loss, like she had missed her chance. And yet she left and never spoke to him. But she was able to leave him behind and head off to the mission field again because of this wonderful little verse, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. She arrived there in this wild, wild country of New Guinea, and she became a woman doctor there and touched many, many lives and went through tremendous dangers and all kinds of difficult trials. And yet she managed to do it for 30 years because of this wonderful little verse and the closeness and promise of Jesus. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. As World War II was beginning and the Japanese were coming to invade that island country of New Guinea, she was one of the very last ones to be evacuated. She wanted to care for her patients and to take care of the people around her. And so she was one of the very last boats off the island. And again, as the Japanese were coming, they were invading, and it was very dangerous. She stayed because of this incredible relationship with Jesus, this promise that was deep within her head and heart. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. After she retired as a missionary, she came back and she began to care for Dad Hagar and Mom Hagar. They were getting older at that time, and yet she was not done working. And so she became the very first medical records person in Good Samaritan, and she traveled around to all of the facilities around the country by bus. And she never charged Good Samaritan anything. She did all of that work for Good Sam and all of that travel and paid for it all on her own. And she had very little money because she'd been a missionary all those years. But it was such a calling for her and such a deep passion that she did it, and she did it again. With this verse deep within, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. When she retired from being the medical director's person for Good Samaritan, she still wasn't done. She went with the Peace Corps then to Tonga and worked as a Peace Corps volunteer there until finally coming back to the States. But again, as she went this one last time abroad to help people in need, and it was this one little verse, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, that drove her and sustained her and kept her through all that she had to face. She was an amazing woman who gave her life for her Lord and discovered time again the truth of this little verse that now is etched on her gravestone. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. She did amazing things. She did all the things she did from the beginning to the end of her life because of Jesus' wonderful promise, and that made all the difference. And I remember that. Each time I come and stand before her gravestone, I remember this woman who gave herself so freely to so many and for her Lord.